Hello, everybody. This is Otto, and I am absolutely fuming right now because I filmed a half-hour video about the most random 50-point games in NBA history, just to find out that the audio was not picking up whatsoever. My mic was on mute. Very frustrating. Absolutely very frustrating. I already have the tier list made. I'm not going to go through it again. And I'm sorry, guys. It is the most frustrating thing ever. Literally 26 minutes long of me talking about each of these guys' 50-point performance, and it just goes right down the drain. So I'll go right through it pretty quick. I already have it ranked, as you can see in front of you. Let me know if you guys agree with it, but I'll go into my explanation right now as to why I think some of these things. So, just a little backstory. I know we haven't done a podcast in a while. I have been sick. I got sick pretty bad last weekend, and just starting to come off of it right now. My voice is still a little bit gone. Still got a bit of a cough, so if I cough throughout this video, I do apologize. I was coughing throughout the whole entirety of the other video, so I guess it kind of works out, but hopefully I can cough less this time. Anyways, so getting back into the tier list, I had Pascal Siakam as the least random. So this is ranked in terms of least random. And, my backstory was I had all of these guys, chosen because they weren't known as the primary scorers on their team at the time when they did this. So I'm not really sure why I chose Pascal Siakam. He was the primary scorer on the Raptors. This was, I want to say, Scottie Barnes' rookie year, like 2022. So I don't know why I put him on this list. So he's in not random. I don't think it was super random. Maybe it was cool. It was definitely pretty cool for him to do that, but I don't think he was super random, at least not like the guys on this list. Jamal Murray is up next. And, he is the second star on the Nuggets. But given the situation, I think Jamal Murray can score in bunches. So I don't think it's super random. And he also did this in the bubble where, people were going off for a ham sandwich. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. So I think that Jamal Murray doesn't deserve to be in the little random tier because I think he could even do this outside of the bubble. I think he could do this in, right now. He's just that good of a scorer. And same kind of goes for Darius Garland. This was when he had his breakout year. I think this was before Donovan Mitchell, so he's kind of known, starting to be thought of as the Cavs' best player next to Evan Mobley. And he was just starting to really break out. So it wasn't super random, especially when you factor in that the fact that a lot of players are doing this nowadays. And it's in the not random tier for sure. Now the next is Drew Holiday. So I don't think this is very random because, he is Drew Holiday and he did this last year. And the reason it might be, just a little bit is because he is the Bucks' third option when it comes to scoring. But, everyone's dropping 50 points nowadays. It's not super random for him to do that. When I first saw that he had a 50-point game when he was on this list, I did think it was probably the Drew Holiday from the Sixers. But come to find out, it's actually when he was on the Bucks. So that was a little surprising, but I don't think it's super random. Excuse me. Now, moving up into the next tier, we got just a little random. And we start with CJ McCollum. So CJ McCollum did this in 2018 when he was on the Blazers. And he was still kind of the second fiddle to Damian Lillard. So I think it was a little random just because in 2018, that was kind of, before, players were doing this on the daily. It was kind of before this was like a really, common thing. So I think that I think it's got to be a little random. And also because he is the second option on the Blazers. But, CJ McCollum is known for scoring. He's known for doing that. So it's not super crazy for that to happen. And coming up next, we got D'Lo on the Warriors. So he played about 30 games with the Warriors and happened to score 50 points in one of them, which is a little random, but D'Angelo Russell was known as kind of a microwave type scorer. He'd get really hot and he couldn't miss a shot. When I first saw that he was on this list, I thought for sure it was on the Nets, because I thought he did this on the Nets. I thought he had some crazy game on the Nets. It might have been like he made a bunch of threes or something, but I can't exactly remember. But he did it on the Warriors. I mean, it kind of makes sense. He played really well in the Warriors. In the games he did play, he averaged like 24 points a game. And so it's not that crazy, especially when you factor in, how potent this offense was. This was like right after the KD era, because he went to Brooklyn. And then I want to say Brooklyn did like a sign and trade with D'Lo to the Warriors or something. I forget how it all went down. But this was, after the KD era, and the Warriors offense was still just a well-oiled machine. And he kind of just fit right in there. But it's still a little bit random just because, you wouldn't expect him to be the one to drop 50. You'd think it'd be Curry or even Clay, but, it kind of makes sense. And next up, we got Kevin Porter Jr. at the top of this list. So Kevin Porter Jr., why I don't think it's up there with the other guys. He was averaging 16 points a game, at this time. He was kind of breaking out on the Rockets. But if you look in that picture there, all these pictures should be from the game they did it in. It's empty. I want to say this was right after the bubble, right after, the season after. They really weren't able to pack, stadiums that much. So it's like they're playing in a scrimmage. It has a little bit of effect on it. And Kevin Porter Jr. is known as a guy to just start chucking up shots. He wasn't afraid of, throwing up shots night in and night out. So it wasn't that surprising that he had 50 points. Now moving up into the next tier, we got pretty random. So TJ Warren starts us off. And, I think this is a lot less random than people think. First of all, it was a bubble performance. So, I hate to say, I know it sounds, trashy to say as an NBA fan. But come on, man. It was in the bubble. Let's be real. That definitely has an effect on it. And he was averaging like 20 points a game at this period on the Pacers. He was actually really good on the Pacers during this time. This is right before his downfall, or before his injury, I should say. And it's not super random, but it's still pretty crazy that he did that. Just to see that TJ Warren scored 50 points. Now next up, we got Caris LeVert. He did this on the Brooklyn Nets, and it's still, pretty random, but I don't think it's as random as people think. He did this, when he was starting to break out. I want to say this was like right before he got traded to Indiana. And actually, this wasn't a bubble game, but this was right before COVID hit. So I don't know, if everyone was just scared that they were going to die. Maybe Caris LeVert thought he was going to die, decided to drop 50 before he does. I don't know. But respect to the man. He did it in front of a full crowd. And he dropped 50 for the Nets. I mean, this was when he was breaking out, averaging like 18, 19 points a game. So I don't think it's that crazy. He was still young. He was still, he was looked at as one of the nice young scorers in the league. So I don't think it's super random, but still kind of crazy that, Caris LeVert has 50 points in a game. I keep saying that, but it just sounds weird to say. Excuse me. Next up, we got the D Rose game, baby. Halloween night. I remember this one vividly, probably the most vividly out of any of these games. Excuse me. I remember I was in high school, and me and my friends went trick-or-treating. I just remember seeing the ESPN notification pop up on my phone that Derrick Rose has 50 points. And it was just a really cool moment for him. I mean, everyone in the NBA, there's like certain guys in the NBA that everyone's just fans of. And Derrick Rose is definitely one of those guys that everyone just loves and always roots for. And the fact that this was post-injury, even post-Knicks, like if I saw 50 points for Derrick Rose, I would have thought it would be on the Bulls or It could, maybe even the Knicks after, where he went after. But no, this is when he was like a role player, on the Timberwolves, and it was just really cool to see. I love Derrick Rose. I love, that uniform he was wearing when he did it. So sexy. Those vintage throwback, looking nice and spooky on Halloween night, dropping 50. So, good for him. But I definitely wouldn't have thought that he would have done it on the Timberwolves. Let me tell you that. Now, at the top of the pretty random tier, I have Eric Gordon on the Rockets. So this was really random. This was like 2018, 2019. But this was when he was a role player on the Rockets. He was averaging like 14 points a game. This was not prime Eric Gordon. He was still a good scorer, but 50 points is ridiculous. It was very, very random that he did this, and it wasn't like James Harden or Chris Paul or something. I think Chris Paul was still on the Rockets at this time. Excuse me. But I'm not exactly sure. But still a pretty random feat. Still a very random thing to see. But these next guys in this next tier are on a fucking level of their own, man. So first up, we got Saddiq Bey on the Pistons. And I have a funny story about this. So I want to say the last, podcast episode we did, I'm so sorry. We have just been busy and sick past couple of weeks. But the past podcast episode we did, I said that I had a video in the works that I was working on by myself. And it was actually about Saddiq Bey and his 50-point game. That I was making, and it was just a very random thought that came to me. It was actually 2 years since it happened when I was working on it, so it's kind of like a 2-year anniversary type deal. And it was just about the most random 50-point game in NBA history. And honestly, if I had to say, probably the other two in this tier are more random, but it was just still a fun video to make because people just forget about it. I mean, Saddiq Bey dropped 50 points, like what? So I was trying to make a video about it. And then another player scored 50 points that we'll get to in a little bit that just completely derailed that video because it's just way crazier. So that's what made me want to make this video. But yeah, I was making a video about Saddiq Bey, like a voice narration type thing. And honestly, it wasn't that fun to like create. So I'm kind of glad that it happened the way it did. So I don't know if I'll do a video like that for a while just because it takes so long. Like I did a bunch of voice recording and editing and like all this stuff. And my video was like 5.5 minutes long. And I'm like, really? So I don't know, but we'll see. Anyways, I mean, do I need to say more? It was Saddiq Bey. And what really made this weird was the guy did it in his second season. He was averaging 16 points a game, but it was on the worst team in the league. Probably the worst team in the league at the time. He was shooting like 40% from the field and 38% from three. So he wasn't an efficient scorer at all. And it was literally like on St. Patrick's Day, but it was the only game scheduled. And it was the Pistons and Magic. And it was like the two worst teams in the Eastern Conference. So just like the most pointless game you could ever imagine. And he just came out here and scored 50. And he did it super efficiently too, which is what was weird. Excuse me. So, it was a crazy night. I remember getting the notification and just being absolutely flabbergasted. Yeah, it was a fun time, and it would have been a fun video, but it's lost somewhere in my computer. Next up, we got Terrence Ross on the Raptors. Now, this is random as hell. Let me tell you why. Terrence Ross, this was his second year in the season. Second season in the league. And the man was averaging 10 points a game. Let me also tell you why. He did this in 2014 when this was not really that big of a thing. Like in 2014, people like Terrence Ross were not going out and dropping 50 points. It was ridiculous that he ever did that. He did it in 2014 when defense was... I don't know, it's only 8 years, 10 years from now, 8 years from the Saddiq Bey game, but it's still so much harder to drop 50 back then than it is now. because that was kind of before, right before Curry started changing the game with, chucking up threes, and the style of play just definitely changed in the NBA in the late 2010s. And this was before that. So for him to score 50, it was a really fucking weird thing. Very random. And yeah, I mean, when you look back on probably, before all these other guys started doing it recently, I mean, Terrence Ross was like known as probably the most random 50-point game ever. And then also this next guy, Corey Brewer on the Wolves, at the top of this tier. My goodness, man, what are we doing? It was the same season actually as Terrence Ross. Same season. They did this in the same season. But Corey Brewer is a little more random to me because I think Terrence Ross is more of a household name. And he also did in his second year, so people were kind of like, okay, is he starting to break out? Is he starting to figure out the NBA? Was this his breakout game? Corey Brewer was like an NBA veteran. This was like his 8th season, in the 7th or 8th season in the league. And this man dropped 50. Like, people were just blown away. It made no sense. And like I said, he did this when this was not a common thing. So it was very fucking random. For an NBA veteran role player whose career high is like 12 points a game to go out there and drop 50 points. It was weird. I don't know if they lost this game, but I do remember when Derrick Rose did his 50-point game, a lot of people compared it to Corey Brewer because he did it on the Wolves, and man, it made no sense. Let me tell you that. Now, in this next tier, he's got a tier of his own. The most recent 50-point game to happen, I believe, Malachi Flynn. I'm making this like a week after he did it. Man, was this weird, dude. And I'm looking at, the background. He did this against the Hawks, I'm pretty sure, which is the team that Saddiq Bey currently plays for. So that's kind of ironic. But man, there's something about the Detroit Pistons and just random ass role players dropping 50. This man did it on the bench. This is a guy who's averaging 5 points a game this season. I mean, this should not be happening. What are we doing here? Are we even playing defense anymore? Now, no disrespect to Malachi Flynn. He's a great guy, I'm sure. He's always been a great, bench player around the league. Great basketball player. Would absolutely murder me. Anyone I know in basketball. But, man, what are we doing here? 50 points is absolutely blasphemy. All right? You're talking about a guy whose career high is probably like 20 points a game, 20 points. And he's out here dropping 50. I mean, the reason I made this video, he's in a tier of his own. So, yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think. Once again, frustrating that I lost the original video. But honestly, this one was better. I got all my thoughts collected and didn't cough as much, I would say. And it's a lot shorter. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Who do you guys think was the most random? Would you guys change anything about this list? And where were you guys for some of these games? Some of these I remember vividly. I remember Derrick Rose vividly. I remember Saddiq Bey kind of vividly. TJ Warren, and obviously Malachi Flynn. That was like a week ago. I was just chilling at home and absolutely blown away by what had just happened, what I was reading on my screen. I thought I should probably get more sleep. But here we are. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys hopefully this weekend. Hopefully we can get a podcast episode out. I think that's the goal. Like this Saturday or something. So stay tuned, guys. We'll see you guys later.